welcome back to the Polly Tea with D. Except today I'm having iced coffee, so ASMR. It's basically the Polly iced tea. No, Polly iced coffee. Anyway, whatever. I hope you guys had a wonderful week. Honestly, I don't know how you possibly could with this rain. It's been miserable. I feel like we're being punished for something. What we're being punished for, I couldn't even tell you. I don't think I've done anything wrong. And if so, I don't think I could have done anything that would warrant whatever the hell's been going on. It's been raining for 40 days and 40 nights. Like, Jesus Christ. Send the flood. Oh, they have already, actually. I don't know what's going on. But I hope, regardless of that, you guys had a great time because, sometimes rain is nice when you're at home and you're cozy, but it's not so nice when you still actually have to get up and do things? So I don't know. Hopefully it ends. I think it's actually, I think it's like a bit sunny now. So I'm smiling a bit today. Happy, happy, happy. But yeah, today it's actually a lot of just tea. There's not really any bills in here. Oh, actually, the first thing I'm talking about is kind of a bill, actually. But it's a bill that we've been talking about for a while. But it's tea this time, guys. It's not good tea, and it's never good tea, but I think you guys will be interested in this, okay? So I think we should all be following the parties on Instagram and TikTok and whatever, because even when they post some of them post like dumb stuff that I'm just like, honestly, go do your job. I'm kind of over this. But sometimes they be posting interesting shit. People before profit being one of them. This is interesting. So we've been talking about the Residential Tenancies Amendment Bill, right? The one about rent pressure zones. And in there is stuff about landlords, about whether a small landlord or a big landlord, there's different rules for the two of them, okay? But like who can evict people at what stage, all that kind of stuff. So obviously if you're a big landlord, you don't have as many, not as many rights, but like you can't be fucking with people's lives as much if you're a big landlord. Like with small landlords, you have a bit more kind of freedom to evict people because you can be like, oh well, it's for family, like it's for me, like I need this house now, whatever. There's rules around it. Whereas big landlords, it's like, but you don't need that specific house, actually. You know what I mean? But anyway, so apparently people before profit, they went on Instagram and they said that they were lobbied by a landlords group. Let me even get you the exact name of the landlords group because I don't know why I can't remember this. It's the Irish Property Owners Association. And they basically went with a list, and this is such a skill issue. Why you would lobby people before profit, a socialist party as landlords to get you more rights as landlords? Why would you do that? Like such a skill issue. But anyway, they went to all the parties though. This is not like specific to people, obviously. They went to loads of different parties, okay? So they went and they had like a list of 12 amendments that they wanted to be put into this bill. And they were basically saying, can you like, I don't know how exactly it works for lobbying. It's like, obviously, it's a tit for tat. You're going to get money or something, some perks, right? So they went to People for Profit, all these parties instead. They had a list of 12 amendments that they wanted put into this bill, right? And you can't just put something into the bill, right? You can like suggest these things. So these are the 12 things that they want you to suggest to put into the bill, right? Amendments into the amendment bill. So, People Before Profit said, we have this list of 12 things that they want. So, any TD who now puts this into the bill or recommends this, we will know that they got it from this association. They got that they were lobbied and they said yes, okay? We will know exactly because one, the wording, the things that they wanted, there's 12 amendments, right? So, listen to this. They said this 2 days ago. They said, now, when the time has come, we will tell you who it is. 2 days later, bro. Not even two, I think it was a day later. Here are the people. So we've got Michael Collins, who's a TD from Independent Ireland. Okay. We've Gillian O'Toole, who's a TD, who's also an independent, but she's a government supporting independent. So it's like, how independent are you really, honey? You know? And then we've got Joe Cooney, who is a Fine Gael TD. So my question is, how much did they get for this? And I'll show you how we know that they got these like amendments from the IPOA because they said the exact same thing, bro. They didn't even try change. I think they changed it a tiny bit each, but not even, okay? So obviously, if you're a big landlord, you want to be classified as a small landlord because then you've more control, right? So this is the line that they've all fucking used in this. I'll read all three lines. They're all very similar, but this is the line that they've all gone for. They said to delete 3 tenancies and substitute 10 tenancies. Okay? That was Michael Collins. Now, Gillian Toole said to delete 3 tenancies and substitute not more than 10 tenancies or dwellings. And now Joe Cooney, Fine Gael TD, and it says to delete 3 tenancies and substitute 10 tenancies. You didn't even try change it, bro. You actually, Michael Collins and Joe Cooney's ones are bar for bar the exact same line. Bar for bar. Ah, you didn't even try. You didn't even try. Like, if you're gonna be corrupt, at least be like, you could have changed it to like 9 or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's just messy because I feel like when it comes to politics, there's this kind of like, oh well, this is just how it goes. Like lobbyists exist. Like it's you're always gonna have a career in a lobby group, right? There, this is how things work. There's lobby groups for everything, right? But I don't like that there's not enough transparency because it's like if people before profit didn't tell us this, would Joe Cooney have said this? Would Michael Collins have said, I'm putting in this amendment because I believe this is a good thing to do? No, he wasn't gonna say that. He didn't even say anything. Do you know what I mean? Like I wish people would just say that they were lobbied. But then it's like, why would they? Why would they? Because now you look like a terrible fucking person. Like, because you're not doing things with the interest of your people. You're doing it with the interest of your pocket. But this is what I mean. Like, all these peoples are either like all these politicians are either landlords or are getting money from these lobby groups. Do you know what I mean? So. This is why you got to be careful with who you vote for. Like, do they have your best interest at heart? Like you're an independent. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like independence whole thing is like, I don't go by the government. I care about my people. I'm not doing this to be in a party. I'm not doing this for anything. I'm doing it because I care about my constituents. Well, if you cared about your constituents, you wouldn't be doing something that would actively fuck them over. Like where you would put them, you'd put renters at the core of everything you do and not the landlords. Anyway, that was the first bit of tea. I found that very interesting, and I want more people to do this. I love that they called this out. I love that they were like, you know what, actually, you're not gonna get away with this. Nobody's really covering this because I don't know. I feel like this is one of those things where it's like, well, it's politics. This is just how it goes. But I don't like that. I'm not a this is how it goes kind of girl. Like I love transparency. I love honesty. I love questioning things. Just because this is the way things have always gone doesn't mean it's the way it should be, you know? So, I thought that was interesting. I hope you guys did too. So, let's talk about Catherine Connolly, our goat. Okay, so I'm sure we've all seen that video of her being accosted by a DUP MP, so a unionist party member of parliament, right? So Catherine Connolly is in Derry giving a speech for at the Guide Hall, or the Guild Hall. Right, this is normal. This is whatever. Like, as a president, you go to the north all the time because you're trying to keep up relations between the north and the south. This is regular scheduling. This was her first trip though as president of Ireland to the north, right? So she is making a speech. She talks about, human rights and human rights movements in Derry. She mentions Bloody Sunday. She's going to meet the families of the victims of Bloody Sunday, and she's just talking about Derry in general. After her, I just think this is so deeply inappropriate and so humiliating for this MP. After this, a DUP MP, what's his name actually? How do I not have his name, bro? Oh yeah, Gregory Campbell. Gregory Campbell comes up to her and starts talking about like, you're in our country, you're in our country, welcome to our country. And he's like, after this, he's talking about like, I was just giving her a warm welcome. What about that was warm to come up to the president of Ireland and start attacking her? And she handled it very well, to be fair. I would not have handled it as well. And this is why I could never be a politician. I have zero cool. No composure. I just can't control my emotions. Or like, even if I can, you can see things written on my face. I'm an open book, unfortunately. But anyway, um, yeah, he's coming up to her talking about like, you're in our country today. I'm going to your country tonight. Bitch, we're on the same fucking island. Don't start this shit for real. And then after he has this whole spiel about like, you know, you're in our country, blah, 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 blah. He talks to the press and he's talking about like, I gave her a warm welcome, but I just was very upset that she continued to say dairy, dairy, dairy and not London dairy. Like I just thought it was inappropriate and that like no mention of the the things that the unionists had to go through or the loyalists had to go through. Just mentions of, the Catholics and like the Republicans and all of this kind of stuff. Like he was mad as hell. She didn't go up there and say, I am so sorry for the unionists. I'm so sorry for the trauma that you endured. But like, why would she do that? Why would she actually do that though? Anyway, she handled it like a pro. And oh, another one he said, let's not rewrite history. That's a bit ironic, considering do they even teach kids in unionist schools the real history of how North the North of Ireland came to be? Did they even teach them that? I wonder, because I know they don't teach it in like in England or in Scotland or anything, because the narrative about around Irish people and around like the IRA and all this kind of like the fight for the Republic, all this kind of stuff. They don't know any of that. They just like that is why the narrative for so long was that Irish people are terrorists for so long because they don't teach history there. And they clearly didn't teach this Gregory Campbell history either. What are you talking about? Let's not rewrite history. And to be fair to Catherine Connolly, she also was like, you know what, yeah, it would be nice to like it would be good that we don't rewrite history because people have done that to fit their narratives. Hello, Gregory, that was a dig at you, by the way, because you're trying to rewrite history by making that comment. Why would the president of Ireland refer to Derry as Londonderry? Like, why would she use the colonialist term to refer to Derry? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Because wouldn't rewriting history be calling it Londonderry because it was never called Londonderry. That's not the original name. It's always been Derry until the British came in and changed that. So wouldn't that be them rewriting history because that's not the historically accurate name of that county or that city? Like, uh, I'm a little confused. Also, like, obviously she would be talking about Bloody Sunday when the anniversary had been within that week, like has been within the week. Like, obviously, she would go and meet the families of the victims of Bloody Sunday. I just don't understand what is confusing to him or what he doesn't understand. Like, maybe if he'd opened up a history book, he'd understand. I don't know, but this is how they be. And like, another thing he goes on a little rampage about is that like this is it. We're never gonna be Irish. We're never gonna like the people in the north are never gonna be Irish. They're never gonna put the two places together. Like we're never gonna be a united Ireland. It's actually not his choice though. Crazy. Crazy. Democracy still lives on here, by the way. I don't know if he knows that or what. Democracy still lives on. So actually, just because you don't want a united Ireland doesn't mean it's not gonna happen, baby. There's gonna be, I promise you, or I hope, a referendum by 2030 on this. So I think he's scared. I think like I saw this TikTok. I can't remember her name. She's like a journalist and she's really smart and she talks about like she's from the north and she talks about all this and she was talking about like the unionists and the loyalists are actually genuinely scared because this is like the first time in a long time there's real hope and there's real conversation and there's real numbers being backed into this over a united Ireland, like a border poll, all of these kind of things. So I think they're actually just scared. Lol. Hate to be you. And then also on the Londonderry thing, if you want to call it Londonderry, then do that. Hey, who the fuck am I to tell you what? It's about control and it's about, free will. If you want to call it Londonderry, call it Londonderry. But you don't have the right to then go and tell other people to do that. Like stick to your own lane, do your own thing, live your life a moment, okay? Live your life. But to go into, I just don't think it would happen if Catherine Connolly was a man. Like it reeks of misogyny, honestly, to me. Like it reeks of misogyny. Even how close he was getting to her, like the like aggressive and passive aggressive nature of the conversation, like it was giving misogyny to me. So recently, for the past like a couple weeks, a lot of the things in the media have been about social media. X, TikTok, mostly X and Grok AI, right? So perfect timing that there was already an Oireachtas committee meeting of the media. Why am I like this is tripping me up? Oireachtas committee on the media was having a meeting. Whoa, we got there in the end. Come on now. Anyway, so they invited the big four. They invited X, TikTok, Meta, and Google to come before them and answer some questions that they had. Who was not there? X, which is like they're the one like company that should have been there. The other companies, Meta, TikTok, and Google, they have their own issues, right? But the big one we're talking about right now is Grok AI. So it's like for them not to be there, bit of a kick in the teeth. All the ministers are like, this is disrespectful, and like it's deeply concerning that they wouldn't show up. Why would they? Why would they? Like our country rewards bad behavior. We have made it very, very clear that we will always put business over ethics. So why would they show up? They know nothing's gonna happen to them. What? A couple sanctions? Not even. You don't get. There's nothing happens to you if you don't show up to the Oireachtas committee meetings. If you don't like, it's an invite. You can decline, which they did. So obviously they wouldn't show up because it's like when they break laws or when they're teetering on a bad line, what they get a few sanctions, a few like a fine or something, like a fine that's like worth in like equivalent to like €10 for them. They don't give a shit if they can keep going. Like it's just so humiliating that X's headquarters, European headquarters are in Ireland, and they didn't show up. Like it just shows that the government don't have the power that they think they do, or yeah, they just don't have that power. Or politicians here don't have that power, and it's like you probably should be worried about that. I don't know, but that's just me. That's just what I think. Okay, but anyway, so what was the main point was that the main issue that kind of like took up all the air was that X wasn't there. They asked all the why they even asked this question, because it's like what they think about this doesn't even matter. But they asked TikTok, Google, and Meta, the executives who were there representing the company. They asked them, "Do you think they should have been there?" And they all said, "Yeah." It's like, well, yeah, Fork Found in Kitchen. Obviously, they should have been there. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that was such a stupid question to ask, low key. But hey, again, that's just me. The next topic that had taken a center stage is age verification, right? Because right now there's a lot of talk about banning social media for under 16s. I think that doesn't actually solve the issue, because once these people are 16, they then go on social media and the algorithms are still the same. It's still feeding women eating disorder fucking content and still feeding men red pill content and, this misogynistic, like, men rule the world kind of content. So like what are you doing delaying it? And also there's so many ways to get around that, to get online if you want to. But anyway, the Roxas committee are like basically asking them, like, how do you, like, what steps are you taking to making sure that these people that are online are actually the right age? Like you're supposed to, you can't be on social media when you're under 13 yet. Baby, I know my cousin is on social media and she's under 13, you know. Like YouTube were saying like they have YouTube Kids and stuff, but still apparently things still kind of like filter into YouTube Kids. I do think YouTube Kids is probably stronger than, all the other platforms, like the protections that they have in place, but things still filter in apparently. So I don't know, I don't have kids, so I don't know how what goes down on there. Do you know what I mean? But I know my cousin loves YouTube, and I'm kind of shocked that she doesn't speak Croatian, because she watches a lot of TikToks or a lot of YouTube videos in Croatian and Estonian as well. Like just a lot of Eastern European content. And it's like there's no subtitles, no nothing. It's just these random like gets like I don't know, like making slime videos and like life hacks and stuff like that. You know those like 60-second hacks you'd get on Snapchat and stuff. Like she watches all of those, but in Eastern European languages. Good for the brain development for sure, but that's big on YouTube Kids, I feel. But anyway, TikTok was basically saying that, they're very against a blanket ban for young teens. They said we really think that's a terrible idea because they will find this content somewhere else. But they are the weakest of the three, of Meta, TikTok, and Google. They're the weakest of the three. Like harmful content slips onto TikTok all the time, and that was one of the main things that the Roxas committee were saying, like, is there something you're trying to do? Like, what's going on? Why is it that you like that kids can see all of this stuff so easily versus, YouTube or, Google, Meta said that their AI detection is really good at detecting all of this stuff. I don't know how true that is. But yeah, they really bigged up their AI detection, right? But yeah, also Meta, A lot of things slip through Meta as well, so I don't even know why they keep talking about this AI, because one AI be stupid, but yeah, a lot of harmful content still slips through them, so I don't know. So I think TikTok and Meta are both kind of shit, low key, when it comes to that. But anyway, the government or the Oireachtas Committee were saying that, we're probably gonna have to come up with something to deter young people from ending up on social media, at least under 13s. And they were saying that they want to have like a verification system that they're gonna. A lot of this is like a concept. It's an idea. They couldn't even tell you who they're going to outsource any of this stuff to, but they basically said that they want to outsource a verification system so that they don't want the companies like TikTok and Meta and Google, YouTube to have these people's PPS numbers. They'd rather have another company have that. I just think maybe no company should have my PPS number or my kids' PPS number or people's kids' PPS numbers. Like, I don't know. I don't know how they would be able to find a company that they trust enough to do that when they have leaks themselves. Like the Department of Social Protection has had leaks when it comes to public services cards, so I don't understand how they would be able to outsource it when they can't even handle it themselves. But yeah, they said that they want to come up with a verification system that's separate to the social media companies so that they can verify kids being on social media and make sure that they're actually over 13. Let's get into another controversy. All of this chat today is just controversy. It's just politicians doing stupid things, except this isn't a politician, actually. So this is a bit interesting, but it is politics related, right? So we all know Bord Bia and the QA mark, right? Quality assurance. When you see that stamp on, meat, eggs, whatever it be, first of all, produced and packaged and created in Ireland, Irish food, drink, whatever. Also, that is to the highest standards, right? So it's like this is what people love, right? You go to the supermarket, I can trust that. Keep that in mind. So we have Larry Murrin. He is the CEO of Dawn Farm Foods. Okay, they are a meat processor, like a major meat processor. Larry Murrin is CEO of that company. He's also the chair of Bord Bia, which, hey, again, I don't want to comment too much on things that I don't actually know anything about. I don't know much about agriculture and meat and processing and all of that stuff, okay? I know politics, but I don't know this, right? Conflict of interest, surely? I would think, but then I'm like, also maybe that makes sense for somebody the board who's the chair of Bord Bia to be someone who has experience in this industry. As CEO of a major meat processor, you would know how things run, how they should run. But I don't know, does it make sense for like, oh, I'm kind of torn. I want to know what people think actually, because hey, there's only so much shit that I know. But carry on. So he's the chair of Bord Bia. He's also CEO of Dawn Farm Foods. It comes out that some of his imports are actually from Brazil. So he imports Brazilian beef. Also, it comes out later on during an Oireachtas committee meeting that he imports Brazilian chicken, which is kind of funny because no one was talking about the chicken because they didn't know. But in this whole process, it comes out that it's also chicken. So he's importing Brazilian beef, right? So now the farmers are pissed, bro, because they're like, you're head of Bord Bia, which your whole thing is literally advocating for Irish products and advocating for, quality assurance and making sure that it's the best standard that there is and that it's Irish, but you're also importing Brazilian beef. And now everybody's like, so what? Am I eating Brazilian beef when I see Dawn Farm Foods? Does it, when it says QA stamp and have that quality assurance stamp, does that mean that like it's not actually correct? Like there's Brazilian beef in it? So the farmers are pissed, bro. Look at the farmers be pissed all the fucking time. No tea, no shade, but they be pissed. Anyway, so the farmers are protesting because they love to protest. The farmers are kind of like the French in a way. The farmers here are the French in a way in that they love a good protest and they know how to protest. But anyway, next. So because this is such a big deal and everybody's riled up about it, the Oireachtas Committee on Agriculture, they call him in. They said, Larry, sit down. We've got a few questions for you. Can you answer these for us? So what are the three big things that came out of this? He said, one, I'm not a champion for Brazil. He said, Brazil, I don't know her. I actually couldn't give a shit about Brazil. I'm only doing this because I'm a major meat processor. Like, I have international contracts, and as part of that, I have to have some Brazilian beef. And then the second thing he comes at is that it's only 1%. He said, it's only 1%. You people are crying over 1% of Brazilian beef and chicken. But then the Roxas Committee said, do you want to show us the numbers on that? Like, how many tons? Like, can you give us? He said, no, you don't have the security clearance for that. That's company sensitivity. What's the word he actually used? I think he used another word that was so funny. He said commercial sensitivity. So he doesn't want like competition knowing his numbers. He doesn't want people knowing his numbers. Low key though, when you're so strict about this 1%, I'm like, you could low key show the Roxas Committee though, but then that would be public information. So, I don't know. Shout out to Larry if he doesn't want to do that shit. Anyway, and then the third point that he made is that when the Bord Bia stamp is on his food, it actually means, or the QA stamp is there, Bord Bia QA mark is there. It actually means that there's no Brazilian beef. Like, I'm not mixing this shit up. I'm not lying to you all. We don't know that though. We don't know. The farmers don't know. Nobody knows that there's no one's going around testing all of his food now, like all his beef or whatever, or chicken at this point. No one's testing this. So nobody actually knows if he's telling the truth because he didn't give proof for that, and he also didn't give proof for the 1%. So now people are still pissed, bro, and they're calling for his head. Off with their head. They're calling for his head. Anyway, he's staying in his role as chair. He said, I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving. I'm not He's not leaving. So that's that. And the politicians that like the people in the Roxas Committee, they can't make him leave. So now they just said, we're watching you. We've got our eyes on you. We're just watching you closely. We're gonna see if you make any mistakes, if you slip up. The farmers, I'm sure, are watching. I think the farmers are just upset anyway. I think this is just adding, fuel to the fire because of the whole Mercosur deal. So I think they're just already like kind of heated. They're kind of heated. Shut up, Beyonce. They're already heated. So I think this was just kind of like they're already beefing with the Brazilians over this. And now it's like, you're also important Brazilian beef, like, way to rub salt in the wound. So there's no kind of proof of anything, any wrongdoing. It's just about trust. So we'll see if anything even happens. I know Sinn Féin were like calling for your one to be sacked. They were leading the off with your head charge. I don't know why, low key, but they're with the farmers on this one. I mean, whatever gets you numbers, I guess. So another thing, this is not tea, this is more educational because we love education on here. But by-elections, by-election, bye. Anyway, the by-elections have been announced for the 22nd of May. So if you're in the Dublin Central constituency, keep that in mind. And if you're in the Galway West constituency, keep that in mind. What is a by-election? When a TD leaves their seat and the person needs to be replaced, so there's going to be a vote, so that's a by-election. So we're replacing in Dublin Pascal Donoghue, who left for the job in the World Bank, and then in Galway West we're replacing Catherine Connolly, who is our president. Shout out Prezi, do you know? So who do we have running so far? Okay, maybe closer to the time I'll do like TikToks about this because it's very specific to region, so there's no point doing a whole thing about it when most people probably won't even be voting for these people. Um, but who's confirmed for the Dublin Central? Or no, for Galway we have Niall Murphy. He's a Green Party member, so he's a former Galway City Council, and he just lost his seat in the 2024 local election. You didn't win as a councillor, but you think you'll win as a TD? Okay. Hey, there's hope for everyone. Let me not get too shady on here. Then we have Noel Thomas, who's an independent Ireland. He used to be a Fianna Fáil member. Okay. And then we've Mead. Oh, I don't actually know how to pronounce this. Let me go and look this up. Okay, I got her name. I had to watch a video and watch it multiple times. Mead Nikinliuk. I need to get back on my Irish grad low key. Fuck, we. Anyway, she is a Soc Dem. She's from the Social Democrats. I love saying Soc Dem. I just feel like it's the catchiest phrase ever. She's a Soc Dem. But anyway, she's with the Social Democrats, and she hasn't been in any like elections, former members of any other party. So yeah, that's interesting. Oh, sorry, we have to do the Dublin people as well. Shout out to the Dubs. These are my people. Actually, I'm not even in this constituency. But anyway, we have Daniel Ennis, who's a social democrat, and he's also a councillor at the moment, but I guess he'll be leaving his seat. And then we have Jeanette Horner, who's Green Party. So there's obviously still more people to be announced because obviously Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, they haven't picked anyone yet. I was reading about this, and apparently this is usually government parties lose by elections because people use this as a way to like kick them when they're down or to like teach them a lesson to be like, you've kind of been fucking up recently, heed my words, if you fuck up again you won't be in here. So I think this is supposed to be like used to teach them a lesson. So I don't know, they'll definitely put someone forward obviously, but will they win? I don't know. This is exciting. I feel like this is a good time to see like if the left is kind of as big as everybody thinks it is at the moment. Like, 'cause a lot of people are like, can the left unite, can the left unite, can like is the tide turning, whatever. This is going to be a good example. We'll actually get to see the impact of Catherine Connolly's win if it goes the way we want it to go, you know. So we'll see. This being said, I don't know if we're there as a country. I don't think we are there as a country at all for this conversation, but the lack of representation in the doll. Guys, it's a sea of white in there. It's a sea of white. I don't know if I'm the only one who's noticing this. I can't be. Because obviously, I'm not saying I want it to be half black, half white, half Asian, whatever the fuck. You know, like, I'm not stupid. But isn't the doll supposed to be a reflection of the country? Like, because when there was underrepresentation of women, it's like women should technically be 50-50 in there. Like, it should be 50% women, 50% men, if it's going to be a reflection. So there was things done to ensure that, or to like not ensure that, but to like push for that, you know, ways to help women, or you know, quotas. Are we now at the point where we should be reflecting the nation of Ireland in the doll, and like numbers have changed, so that like should we now be doing quotas for people of color? Because I did do a little glance around some of these parties. The numbers aren't looking good. I feel like some parties have like counselors who are people of color, but they're not putting these counselors forward to run in general elections, or some of them do run in general elections and don't win. But I do think it's part of a wider conversation. I don't think it's as simple as like these parties don't want black people in there. They don't want, you know, Middle Eastern people in there. Like, I don't think that's the case. I don't know if they're actively trying. That's my question. I don't know if they're actively trying to find people, to find advocates and activists in these spaces and put them forward. I don't know. But I also think that we're in such a volatile time that I can't imagine many people of color want to go into politics anyway. I People say to me, not to be that girl, but people have actually said to me like, "Would you ever go into politics?" And I'm like, no. Like, sometimes I'm like, maybe, but one, I'm too young and hot and turned. There's no way I'm wasting my youth on this shit. No tea, no shade. Um, but also, like, I would rather not get the verbal and physical abuse that comes with being a politician. Like, sorry, they come hard at women anyway. Why would I put myself through that as a black woman? Like, low key. But obviously, it's like the more representation you get, the more that the change happens. But it's like, do you want to be that person? Do you want to be that first? Do you want to be the person who's changing the tide, who's putting themselves forward? To be fair, we had Leo Varadkar as Taoiseach, so it's not like it's unheard of to have a TD who's a person of color. But since he's been gone, who there? Who there? No one there, you know? So I don't know. I don't know if this is like such a, I'm dipping my feet into this conversation. Or dipping a toe into this conversation. There's so much I could possibly say. This is not the time for that conversation, but I'm just putting it out there for maybe if you haven't thought about it, is it something that you maybe that you guys probably should reflect on this and think, huh, why is it that there's no people of color in the doll? Would I myself vote for a person of color? Hmm? I think the people who listen to my podcast obviously would, because it's like, come on now. But just think about the biases that you have in your mind. You know, there's obviously a lot going on, so it's just a thought. It's just a thought. Okay, let's talk Jeffrey Epstein. Ireland was mentioned in these files, the Epstein files, 1,600 times, okay? But like, and Irish was referenced 600 times, but like, we don't know the context of all of them. Some of them is Epstein just talking shit about Irish people. I think he said that like Irish people are pale and have horrible asses. It's just like, okay, like you're a convicted felon, like you're a child abuser. Do you know what I mean? Like you're a sex offender. So whatever, his opinion really means nothing, honestly. But anyway, so we're mentioned that many times. So I will go through some of the times that we have been mentioned. And also an interesting fact that I found out that I think people would be interested to know. Don't jump to any conclusions. Anyway, so the first one is AIB's mention. So AIB was mentioned, and they couldn't have done anything wrong because they didn't know anything about this. But basically, David Micheal is an Irish businessman. He reaches out to, this is around the crash, 2008. Keep in mind, Jeffrey Epstein has now already been convicted. He was arrested in 2006, but convicted in 2008 of soliciting sex from a minor. So at this point, he is a sex offender, known child abuser, right? So David Mitchell reaches out and says, okay, AIB is in a bit of a sticky situation because of the crash. AIB is struggling because, like, at this point, the state had to bail them out. They owed, the state owned, I think, 99% of AIB around this time. So for investors, this is like a lucrative deal. They have the chance to invest, and maybe, like, now that they're down, they invest, and then in the years to come, they'll be up again. When the banks are up again, they'll be up again. So David Mitchell reaches out to Jeffrey Epstein post conviction and says, I have a great deal for you. You would have to chip in about 1 billion. It's like a 3 billion euro deal. You'd have to chip in about 1 billion, but we could invest in some of this and get some money back. It's all businessy. I couldn't give a shit. Point is that he reached out to Jeffrey Epstein for this deal. Nothing happened. Nothing materialized. Like, it was just him reaching out. The disgusting thing is that he reached out to him in the first place, knowing he was an abuser. So that's the first mention of Ireland in there. AIB couldn't have been complicit because this was all private conversations. Nothing happened. It was just, I think, like a couple emails or something. Next, George Mitchell. And he is mentioned, he was really big here because he played a massive part in the Good Friday Agreement. Anyway, so he's really well liked here. There's a scholarship in his name that sends US students to Ireland to Irish universities, and it's like by the US Ireland Alliance. But in the emails that came out recently, there was talks about him trying to set up a meeting with Epstein in 2010 and in 2013. We don't know if these meetings actually happened or what, but everybody got scared, everybody got spooked. So the US Ireland Alliance removed the scholarship. I mean, the scholarship's there, but they removed his name from the scholarship. So, like, US students can still come to Ireland on the scholarship. It's just not called the George J. Mitchell Scholarship anymore. So, yeah. So, there's a guy called Morgan McSweeney, okay? And he is Keir Starmer's chief advisor, and he played a massive role um in getting Peter Mandelson the UK ambassadorship to the US, like, and even just a lot of the roles that Peter Mandelson had, he was like, this is the guy. Played a massive part. What's interesting about Morgan McSweeney though is he's Irish. He was born in Cork. He moved to London or to the UK when he was 17, rose through the ranks. At one point he lived in Israel for a year. Many such cases, like, ugh. Anyway, rose to the ranks and now is the chief advisor to Keir Starmer. So everybody's like off with his head, Morgan's head, because they're like, they blame him for Peter Mandelson, or they're looking for a scapegoat, basically. Keir Starmer is not allowing him to be the scapegoat. He's saying, I stand behind him, that's my man, 10 toes behind him, period, okay? What I find interesting, though, is that Morgan McSweeney is a legacy, like a political legacy, which is very, like, common in Ireland. Like, it's very common that a lot of these politicians, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil especially, they are the kids, like the people that are in politics now are the kids of other politicians. Like, this is just how it goes. They're all legacies. So he's a legacy because his aunt, well, I mean, in a way, it's not that massive, but his aunt was a Fine Gael councillor, right? So, but also what is very, very interesting is that Morgan McSweeney's cousin is Claire Mungovin. How do I even say that? Mungovin. We're gonna call it that. She is one of Simon Harris's senior advisors. So I don't know about you guys, right? I'm not that close to my cousins, right? Like, they live in Zimbabwe. There's two that live here, but they're kids. All I know is that they go to school. Okay? And I know when their birthdays are. Like, I see them occasionally, whatever. So I don't know what my cousins get up to all the time. They're not even in the same like, so, Claire and Morgan. I don't know how close they are. I don't know what conversations they have. I'm not jumping to any conclusions, but I will say it is interesting that these two are in similar fields. Like, what do you mean at one point you're the advisor to the prime minister, and your cousin is the advisor to another prime minister, the Taoiseach. I mean, he's a Taoiseach now, but he was Taoiseach at some point. Do you know what I mean? And he's Taoiseach now. So I'm like, what type of conversations happen at Christmas dinner? Like, this isn't even related to the Epstein files. I doubt they've talked about Epstein at all, like between them two. Like, I don't know what Morgan knows about Epstein. Like, we don't know actually Morgan's connection to Epstein at all. His connection is to Peter Mandelson. We don't know how that they connect, right? But I am just curious about, what are their Christmases like? What are their Do they hang out? Do they chat? I would assume so, because you're both advisors to leaders in neighboring countries. Like, there would be 1000% some sort of crossover. 1000%. So I'm interested to see. There's not going to be any backlash for this lady, I should say woman. There's not going to be any backlash because nobody's really talking about it, to be fair. Actually, I literally found out about this through an Instagram comment. You guys got to get on the internet, man. There's shit out there. So that's how I found out about it. But does it mean anything? I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, and I thought you guys would also think it was interesting. So there's that. Last topic of the day, and oh god, you know what? I'm just actually so fed up with this guy, Micheal Martin. Honestly, why is he going to the White House? Someone let me know. Why is he actually going to the White House? Not only is he going to the White House, we have so many politicians going to the US. We have eight. One, it annoys me because we've just have too many junior ministers. There's no need for us to even have. There's like 38, I think, TDs going. Like, they're all ministers going abroad for Paddy's Day. We don't have to have 38 ministers. These people are greedy as fuck and love handing out jobs to their friends. But aside from that, um, oh, I have so many thoughts on this. One, I feel like when people talk about diplomacy, and specifically when it comes to Trump, there's this kind of narrative that, like, you need to be nice to him. You have to smile and you have to shake his hand and you have to be kind because you don't know what he's going to do. He could turn around and slap tariffs on you. He could turn around and do all of these things. We were nice to him and he did it anyway. What did we do? What did the EU do to piss Trump off? They were all licking his ass, bro, and they continue to do so, even with the threat of Greenland. That's kind of subsided a bit, though. That's kind of over. That was just him having a temper tantrum. And that's the problem. You can't, like, he's a toddler, basically, but I don't even actually want to downplay him because sometimes I'm like, oh, he's like a child, he's a child. But I'm like, a child who's committing genocide, you know? So I don't want to say too much because, not that I don't want to say too much, but I don't want to downplay how evil and horrible and corrupt he is by, referring to him as a toddler, because a toddler is not even that fucking bad. So my problem is people just act like you can appease him, and if you're nice to him, he won't do this, and if you're nice to him, our Irish jobs won't be at stake. They're at stake anyway. They are at stake anyway. Like, if there was a way to appease a fascist, and I am very comfortable calling him a fascist, he's also called himself a fascist, by the way. If there was a way to do that, don't you think it would have worked in the past? Like, we've all done history. It's kind of compulsory in this country. You have to do history. And I don't remember if we did Nazi Germany, and I know I did it in Leaving Cert History and it was actually such a massive part, which is why I still remember so much about this. But I think we still have to learn about it in Junior Cert. So, we know about his rise to power. We know that that Europe tried a policy of appeasement, and he still committed the atrocities that he did. This Holocaust still happened. He still invaded all of these countries, all of his neighboring countries. So it's like, if this and I use Hitler as an example. He's not the only fascist in the world. He's not the only dictator that ever existed, but he is the only one that everybody knows the story. Everybody knows what happens. But I feel like we're really comfortable forgetting about that. We always say never again, never again, never again. And on one hand, I'm talking about Trump, but on the other hand, I'm talking about the fact that Trump is aiding and abetting a genocide in Gaza still to this day, okay? And not only that, he still wants to go in with his board of peace and tear Gaza apart for the sake of money. To have all of these people have to leave their home for the sake of money because he wants to build a paradise there. You know, he doesn't care about the Palestinian people at all. He wants a Nobel Peace Prize and a new paradise. You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm straying a bit from Micheal Martin, but if it was possible to appease fascists, it would have happened. We would have been able to do this. Like Stalin, Mussolini, like other names that people would know. It would have worked before, even if we want to go more recent, you know? It would have worked, but it doesn't work. So it's like for me, Hall Martin, and also I think I made a comment on TikTok saying like, you know, the U.S. is eerily similar or is like reminiscent of Nazi Germany. Said that's a bit harsh. It's a bit far. Well, no, it's not though, because in the US right now, they're picking people off the street based on the color of their skin and asking them from documentation. Is that not exactly what happened to Jewish people in Germany, in Austria? Like, is that not exactly what happened? Genuinely. So I'm like, we need to, as a society, have a bit more pattern recognition. You need to be able to see when things have happened before and acknowledge that it's happening again. When the Holocaust happened, there's stories of like soldiers who freed Jewish people from the Holocaust or who freed people who were in who were in concentration camps, and they said they'd never seen anything like that before. They were shocked when they arrived. They didn't know what they were walking into. They didn't know the extent of it. Well, up until a certain point, okay? But like for the first people who were going to the concentration camps, they did not know how bad it was, okay? So then it's like that's why we always say never again, never again, never again. We have no excuse. We genuinely have no excuse because we can see exactly what's happening in Gaza. We can see it with our own eyes. They still try to lie to us. They still try to tell us what we're seeing isn't true. They try to say that there's no famine when we could see with our very own eyes that there was no famine. They always try to claim that some of these people died from that we don't know how they died. When it's like, you know, Hind Rajab, Israel said no, that wasn't us. When there we have proof that there was Israeli tanks in the area. We have proof that they were there. We have proof that they killed her. So it's like we're witnessing this happen. And a lot of the times when you look back at history and you're reading all of these things that you're happening, you're like, how did everyone let this happen? How did the governments let this happen? How did everyone stand by and do nothing? And it's not that people stood by and did nothing. There were still protests and stuff going on, but not to this extent that we have now. We have people going to the streets and saying, we want our government, our leaders to actually take a stand, but they still refuse to do so. They won't pass the Occupied Territories Bill, and then now Micheal Martin is going to go shake hands with Donald Trump. He's going to go shake the hand that Donald Trump uses to allow the imprisonment of like his own citizens. The hand that he uses to give money to Israel to fund a genocide. Do you know what I mean? So it's like obviously I understand to a certain extent that government ministers and politicians and our leaders have to speak to people that they don't necessarily agree with. That there's kind of like, oh, I don't agree how you do things in your country, but you know what? I need a trade deal. I need an agreement. But it gets to a certain point. It gets to a point where you will be remembered in history books for having spoken to that person, for having dealt with this person, for having smiled and laughed with a person who is one a rapist, probably a child rapist with the release of the Epstein files, who like again is funding a genocide. So it's like it gets to a point like this is what you will be remembered in the history books for. Is that the legacy that you want to leave behind? And everybody I feel like is standing on their high, like not on their high horse, but I just don't think people understand that no, your job is not at risk if Micheal Martin doesn't go to the White House. No, your job isn't at risk. Donald Trump is not going to go and say, oh, you know, Pfizer shut down your plant in Dublin or your plant in Ireland. He's not going to say that. One, because we're a fucking tax haven for these people. They care about money more than they care about anything else. They care about money more, and Trump has proved that time and time again. They care about money more than they care about anything else. So we really, really, really need to let go of the idea that if we don't go to the White House, we are fucked. The least we can do, the least we can do is not go and not act like everything is fine and everything is chummy and like, because when Micheal Martin gets there, he's not gonna say anything. He's not gonna say, like, if it was a thing where he's gonna go up there and say, we don't, like, the Irish people seriously condemn what's happening in your country with the ICE raids. He's not going to go and say that. He's not going to say we seriously condemn the Board of Peace. He's not going to go up and say that. He's just going to go up there, smile, and say, "Isn't it a fine day? Oh my God, leprechauns and Paddy's Day, and we're so fun and we're such a jolly country. Don't tax us." Do you know what I mean? Like, bitch, the EU tariffs are still there. So, like, I just don't know what people think is gonna happen if he doesn't go. You know? Whereas if he, or if he, yeah, if he doesn't go, it just shows that we're taking a stand. And I don't know. I think people would respect you more for that than going and being jolly. And it's like also a lot of people don't want you to go. So it's like, would you not listen to your people? You know? And then I just feel like people get really patronizing about it when they talk about, like, if my opinion being that I don't think you should go, they get really patronizing. They're like, well, you don't understand politics and you don't understand geopolitics and diplomacy. You don't understand that. You know, things are bigger than you. Things are bigger than your what is it? Your woke stuff. Like, it's bigger than that. I was like, no, I don't actually think it is, by the way. I actually put empathy and for others and consideration for others above business and economics. Like, yeah, sure, I'm not an economist, whatever. Like, sure, maybe I'm not that, but I do have feelings for people. I do care. I do have compassion. I do have empathy. So, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. So, yeah, that was kind of a long-winded explanation of how I feel, but yeah, overall, I don't think we should be there, and I don't think we should be going. So, yeah. But anyway, that's actually all I have for today. Oh, all I have. It's 15, like it's a long episode. They're always long. I'm sorry, guys. I try to keep it like short, but then I just start talking and it's like this is why I love my podcast because I get to just yap. I just get to talk about this stuff because it's like who else am I going to talk to be fair? So my friends do actually care about politics and we did politics together, so I can't talk to them, but yeah. I don't know, it's just nice to be able to talk about it here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it didn't feel too lectury at the end, but I just had to get my opinion out there. So yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Actually, it's okay, it's not sunny, but it's not raining. So I'm gonna take that win and maybe go somewhere. So yeah, bye guys, have a wonderful week.